Speciation is the process of a new species branching off from an existing one to the point that they no longer see themselves as potential mates. This process begins by first a group of a species getting separated from its general population. Once a species has been separated, evolution can work. Mutation provides new genetic material for each group. With new genetic material in each group, natural selection does its job by affecting which mutations get passed on. This process continues until the two groups are completely different species. Darwin himself viewed speciation as a continuous process where species are transformed over time by natural selection into distinct species during the course of adapting to an ever-changing environment. While the term species was created by humans and is completely relative, we are using it to mean that the two groups have enough genetic diversity that they no longer recognize other members as potential mates.
Speciation is a continuous process of genetic divergence. Examples cited by some paleoanthropologists is the apparent transformation from the archaic Homo erectus to the modern Homo sapiens. Homo erectus appeared around 2 million years ago. In this process, the cranium size between these two species doubled. So do Homo antecessor, Homo heidelbergensis, and Homo neanderthalensis only represent stages in a single transformational lineage from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. In Elizabeth Panini's 2009 report on sequencing the Homo neanderthalensis genome, for instance, indicated that Homo neanderthalensis and Homo sapiens diverged around 500,000 years ago. These two thus represent independent, non-interbreeding sister species that coexisted, sometimes in close proximity, until around 30,000 years ago. Isolation is a very important part in new species transformation, and it can occur in several different ways. Allopatric speciation, sympatric speciation, parapatric speciation, and parapatric speciation. In some animals and plants, complete geographic isolation is required before divergence can proceed and allopatric speciation is completed.
Allopatric speciation, in other words, geographic isolation, is where an event leaves the population being split by the land. An example of this is when land mass divided into two and the population gets divided to each side. Species may evolve in the two ways under the conditions of the geographic isolation. Once isolated from one another, the sister populations are free to check and adapt to the local ecological changes in their respective environments. Because mutations and the order in which they appear will eventually differ in the two populations, Over time, each population will accumulate an increasing number of different adaptive genetic changes. A good example of the geographic isolation is orangutans. They live on the island of the Borneo and the Sumatra that were once connected a long time ago, but now they are separated and they have different features, such as the checkpad. Darwin and others later on that animal and plant species can divide into two independent lineages without spending extended periods geographically isolated from one another. Most eventually, biologists in the later half of the 20th century argued that the gene flow between the lineages would continuously disrupt the evolution of the gene complexes as they form.
Paraphyletic speciation is where a small group separates from a large population and the genes of the small group change drastically until they become their own species. It's also referred to as the founder's effect, speciation, and first proposed by Ernest Mayr. Mayr assumed that a newly established colony would be subject to a combination of strong genetic drift, divergent selection resulting in rapid genetic reorganization, the genome genetic revolution, and emerged a new species. It only occurs when one or only a few individuals colonize a new region or distant new habitat. The most likely occurrence involves colonization of a distant island, lake, or habitat beyond the periphery of the wide-range species.
The sexually reproducing organisms go about speciation in two major ways: parapatric speciation and sympatric speciation. These two processes share some biological attributes, but differ primarily in their geographic isolation. Sympatric speciation is when a species undergoes polymorphism within its population and it has the absence of geographic isolation. This process is called sympatric speciation. Isolation can happen in other ways, such as one part of the population being nocturnal for some reason, and over time, the diurnal group and the nocturnal group become completely separate, such as in the night owl.
Parapatric speciation. This is when the population separates adjacent to each other. When they still can crossbreed, it is clear that they are different species. The two populations are parapatric when they are occupied adjoining the habits and their distributions overlap a long narrow intersection or transitional zone between the two habits. Parapatric speciation may originate in its simplest form when a species encounters a new habit at the margin of its normal range. Speciation as a concept refers to the creation of the species in many different forms. Thank you for watching.